This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hey everyone, you're wasting time with Chris, Beth, and Matt. My name is Chris Williams. With me as always are
Beth Golpe.
Matt December.
All right, guys. Happy Halloween.
Happy
Yes,
Halloween.
I almost called myself Beth Golpe.
Oh, you should have.
no,
That would have been good.
That's what our DTE bill says. It's Goulpe. It's funny.
Matt, you could have been Matt December.
That's not quite as clever.
It sounds scary.
Well, today we're talking some ghost stories.
Oh!
We thought we're trying to figure out what to do with Halloween, but we've pulled the hat out like a lot in the past few months. So we probably shouldn't do like a pull things out of the hat. And I think we did that last Halloween.
I think we did, yeah.
On the old podcast. So instead, we decided to talk about real life ghost stories, maybe that we've experienced, that our friends have experienced, that we've heard about. Just to kick things off, are you guys like believers in the supernatural and ghosts and stuff like that?
What do you consider supernatural?
Like ghosts and
Ghosts
stuff
and
like
spirits.
that. Ghosts,
Ghosts.
vampires.
Werewolves.
I don't know. Nothing I've ever... I have zero reason to believe in ghosts. So no, I don't believe in ghosts.
Okay.
I believe in energy, and I think that we're all energy, and that when we die, sometimes our energy stays behind. Sometimes... and...
Ghosts!
as a ghost. So... I don't know. I don't believe in ghosts, but I do believe in energetic disturbances and leftover energy. And yeah, I think that's...
Is that like a biblical teaching?
No. Why would it be a biblical teaching?
I don't know.
No, it's just like a philosophy because there's just... I mean,
what does the Bible say about human energy and
I
ghosts?
don't know. I'm not a super religious person or anything.
You are?
No. So here's what I'm saying.
Okay.
If you like look into stuff like Insidious, right, and all, and the stuff that's based on true stories,
That's
and
not based on a true story.
and people's real life ghost stories and experiences, there is no way that it's just nothing.
Oh,
there's no way that there's nothing.
The door closed. It's a ghost.
You know what, man? It's all hilarious until
She's not a very religious person.
until a door closes in your face.
I mean, like I
until
said,
a spooky ghost, a spooky energy ghost.
Have you ever encountered a spooky energy ghost?
No, but I haven't like come face to proverbial face with the spooky ghost, but I have had like spooky feelings. I've had like the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I've had like spooky experiences.
Okay.
I've played like, I've definitely thought about something for too long and scared myself.
Well, yes, but that's not.
No, but
that's not a ghost.
No, but I'm just saying. I think
okay.
I think that they're out there.
You think that there are ghosts?
Yes.
Like with chains and stuff.
Like very much like that. No, like I'm saying, I think that there is like residual. I think that there's like residual energy that hangs around on our plane and makes popcorn pop or something. I don't know, but
Okay, that makes sense.
Or like makes doors slam or makes spooky stuff happen.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll talk about a few scary stories that have happened to us, and then we'll try to come to some determination as a group whether we think those were ghosts or just things.
I never got to weigh in. But...
What do you think? Oh, that's right. Do you believe in ghosts? I just assumed you did.
I believe in the Holy Ghost. I'm kind of two-faced about the whole ghost thing. Like, I believe, like, I'm a spiritual, religious person, so I believe there's an afterlife.
Yeah.
So I do believe that, God could intervene, and there's things we can't understand or explain. I think there are inexplicable things that sometimes happen in our life, and maybe that's the supernatural. But I think 90%...
I'm looking at Matt because me and Chris are right and Matt is wrong.
I also think 90% of what people think are...
You think 10% of ghost encounters are real?
No, what I'm saying... No, here's what I'm saying.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does, Matt. And you leave him alone.
No, here's what I'm saying. I think 90% of stuff can be easily explained.
Okay.
Scientifically explained.
The wind or a creaky house.
Sure.
I think 10%, maybe there's not an easy explanation. Maybe some of that there is something that we can't explain and might be a supernatural occurrence.
Yes.
I think
Jacob Marley, for instance, is coming down the stairs.
Or the ghost of
that just
Christmas
makes sense.
present.
But yeah, as Matt was saying, we're going to kind of do this a scientific way.
Yes,
and talk about scary stories, real life scary stories. And the fact is, Matt and I are experts on this.
That's true, we are.
About, 12 years ago?
Did you go on a haunted tour?
No, even better. We went to a seance.
Yeah.
What? No way.
We invited the spirit world into our lives.
Well, no, we didn't do that. But so I think I tell this story before we get started because it's one of my favorite things Matt and I have ever done together.
Yeah,
it was a good bonding.
It was
time.
a good thing. Yeah.
We were both working at the newspaper at that time. There was a bar in one of the towns that I covered that was purported to be haunted. There was apparently like some history of hauntings at the bar, and I got in one day and was really upset that the local daily paper had a story that there was going to be a seance at that bar that night. And I was really upset because I didn't know about this. So I was like, well, screw that. I'm going to the seance. And Matt was my photographer.
That's right, I was.
So we went to Locker Room Saloon and had a little food and spirits, if you know what I mean.
Stop.
Tell me all about it. Did you see a ghost?
Well, okay, here's what I loved. There were two parts I loved. Matt, you can chime in anytime,
please.
Too. The first part, they led us into the cellar of the bar, and they had everyone standing around, and it was like this ghost hunter group leading this part.
Yeah.
And they were telling us, watch out for, like, orbs or things like that. And so they turn off all the lights, and it's quiet. We're all sitting there, and it's pitch black down there. And then I just hear the lady, oh, look over. Oh, you guys scared it away. like, it was really, really bad. And then we went upstairs to the attic, I think, for the actual seance.
Well, it was like the second floor. I don't know.
Second floor, yeah. It was an upstairs room.
Yeah.
And everyone sat in a circle and kind of joined hands. And me and Matt just kind of sat back in the back of the room and watched them. And it was one of the most hilarious experiences I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because the medium, the psychic who was there, was basically, like, first off, she's telling people this history. Like, there had been this big fire in Utica that had burned down the town. And she's like, oh, I'm getting a vision. And first her credential is she had once channeled Sitting Bull.
Yeah, right, that's right. Yeah, Sitting Bull.
Wow. To which I ducked into another room and started laughing really hard. But then, like, she's telling people, oh, I get this energy. I feel something there. It's this young child who died in the fire, and he's talking to me. And he's scared or something. But the problem was, I had already written a story about that fire in which no one died.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
it was kind of fun.
It's a toughie.
Yeah, because we obviously go with a certain sense of like, oh boy, this is all bullshit,
Yeah.
I mean, before we even got there, so we just laughed through the whole thing, making scary faces and gestures at each other through the whole thing. It was funny. It was good. It was a good time.
The funny part was the psychic offered me a job like 2 weeks later.
Like a full-time job?
I don't know if it would have been full-time, but she wanted me to do all her press releases for her.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't think I can do that because I don't think I believe the same thing you believe. So, so I turned it down.
Good call.
I stayed at the paper. That was a good financial
Yeah, that worked out.
It did. So those are our credentials. We are paranormal investigators.
Yeah, exactly.
Professional. You can read my work. It is an article entitled "Food and Spirits." You actually can't read it because it doesn't exist in the archives anymore.
Yeah, as I say, I don't think it's online anymore.
So, but those are our credentials. And Matt, why don't you start? What is your first scary experience?
Spooky
You want a spooky story?
Yep.
So, the thing about spooky stories is, or at least in my experience, at least the ones I'm going to tell, like, they're not really that spooky. Or at least mine aren't. But I'll give you what I have. So, and it's weird because I'm sure I've had several of these. But there's just, like, a few that, like, this one specifically sticks out in my head. Because I'm sure everybody has gone through the same, like, something very similar happened. I was probably in high school. Our house was, like, a tri-level. I think it's a tri-level. So we had like a main floor and the living space was down a floor and then the bedrooms were up a floor, right? So it was it's the middle of the night. It was pitch black out. I got to use the little boys' room. And then my room was like right at the top of the stairs. And so I go to the bathroom. I'm walking back to my room. I'm like going into my bedroom and I look down the stairs and I was like, okay. I said, and it looks to me like there's a man standing at the bottom of the stairs, like just standing there looking at me. Again, it's like pitch black, so it's like a real inky, dark black.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, and I'm like blurry eyed,
right? And you're like, what am I looking at?
What am I looking at? But I'm like, it looks like the shape of like the outline of a human man. Mm-hmm. And I probably stood there and just like hand on my door jamb, stared at him for what felt like a really, really, really long time. And finally, I like.
I have a stomach ache, like, just hearing the story. Like, this is spooky.
Yeah, so I, like, kind of finally...
How old are you, do you think?
Probably 15 or 16.
Okay.
So I, like, instead of just, like, turning on the light and being like, oh, yeah, there's nothing there, I, like, kind of slowly backed my way to the room, closed my door, got in bed, and literally slept with the, like, blankets over my head. Because I was, like, freaked out. I was like, well, there's a person in the house. But, like, I'm like, well, why didn't...
Right, like, realistically, you would have, like, sounded the alarm. But
why didn't I do
it?
Yeah.
It was because it was a spooky ghost.
Yeah.
Was it?
You could tell it was spooky ghost energy. Spooky ghost energy.
I couldn't see any chains or anything on him, though, so I didn't know.
They don't always have chains. Sometimes.
Here's the weird thing.
Yeah.
So, when I was young, it was the first house I grew up in. I slept in, like, a finished attic. So, it was just my brother and I on the top floor of the house. And there was this, there was a stairway down, there was this landing by the stairs. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and just kind of looking over by the stairs. And there was, I swear, this head floating there. Wearing a cowboy hat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I say that, and I'm like, that's silly, but I can remember just laying there and seeing it stare at me, just kind of floating and staring at me. It was like this, like, kind of light, see-through, kind of like what you'd see in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could see through
transparent.
It. Yeah, exactly.
Like Slimer wearing a cowboy hat.
Sure, yeah. But it was a human face.
Okay.
Slimer had a human face.
But I just remember laying there, terrified, and like not sure. Should I get my parents? Should I yell for my parents or what?
There's a cowboy head up here.
Well, here's the thing. I get up and I start walking toward the stairs.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I just hear, "What are you doing?" And I run back to my bed. I pull the covers over my head.
Did you really?
Yeah. Okay, so here's where...
Was it your brother?
I don't know. I don't even know if my brother was staying in the room at that point. He might have still been downstairs. Here's my thinking, and then I'll give you the twist. My thinking is, one, it was a dream. I had been watching a lot of movies as a kid, and I dreamed this whole thing, which is logical. My other thought is, maybe I thought I saw something, and I got up, and I started walking to the stairs, and my dad heard me, and he shouted from downstairs, "What are you doing?"
Oh, because an attic is loud.
Yeah.
He would have been able to hear you.
But here's the thing. I woke up the next morning and get up to go downstairs. The glass over the light hanging over the stairway had shattered in the night.
Really?
How do you guys not believe in ghosts? Both these stories are terrifying.
I don't know, because like there's the thing where there's a part of me that wonders.
That's a very scary story.
It's scary, but there's also a part of me that wonders, am I just mixing up timelines in my head?
Right, and then
like 30 years
and
ago.
time goes on, yes. Okay. So now I had said before we started, I'm like, oh, I don't really have any. And I just thought of one. Chris has made me think of like a real spooky thing that happened to me.
Okay.
So you hear this all the time, this kind of stuff. But I was in my childhood bed, so I was probably 12, because I think it was right before we moved to the house that I spent my like teenage years in. I think I was 12 years old. And it was the middle of the night. I was sleeping soundly. And I was startled awake by a very intense sensation of just a hand gripping around my ankle at the foot of my bed.
Wow.
Like it startled I remember my eyes shooting open because it grabbed, and it was like someone grabbed it like quick and pulled my foot. And the grabbing startled my eyes open, but like I couldn't move, but my eyes were open, like my eyes shot open, but I didn't sit up. My eyes just opened, and someone was like had their hand on my ankle, and it was like I opened my eyes but didn't move, and I could feel the hand on my ankle, and then the hand pulled my ankle, like pulled my foot, and then it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like sat up in bed and just sat there, going like, what just happened? Am I awake? Was I dreaming? I'm awake now. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and but you hear that with people with like alien encounters and stuff, where it's like that kind of like you're in the weird like in between state in your brain, because your brain is just like telling you what you feel.
Yeah.
So you could have been half dreaming. But anyways, that kind of stuff is scary too, because it's just your brain. It's like scary. when I was just listening to like an old episode of a podcast, and they were like reading people writing in about like alien abduction stuff, and it's always people that are like, I couldn't move, but I was awake, and like I saw this, and it's just like that sleep paralysis.
I was looking up a movie on that.
Anyways. Your brain is terrifying. Your brain is as spooky as a ghost.
As spooky as a ghost?
But I definitely, and then shortly, I also remember that then I was like, okay, there's a ghost that's haunting my room. It's fine. Like, I'll deal with it. This is like my 12-year-old self. I started doing like Ouija boards and stuff and being, which would you guys, I would not mess with a Ouija board now as a 35-year-old person.
It'd be kind of funny.
No, I would. Here's the thing. I'm like, you know what? I just don't need that. I don't need that drama in my life.
Not today, Satan.
I do not need that drama.
In your life.
No, I don't need that drama. But I used to like put stuff under my bed, and I realized my floor was really uneven because everything would just kind of like come out from under my bed.
Stop it. That's spooky.
Well, but my floor was just uneven.
No, it wasn't. That was ghosts.
It was.
Have either of you seen the documentary The Nightmare?
No.
I think it's been on Netflix. I'm too scared to watch it. But it's about sleep paralysis. And it's people describing sleep paralysis, and then they recreate what they saw. So I just looked up the Wikipedia description of sleep paralysis. And it's basically the symptoms are you imagine humming, hissing, static, voices, whispers, and roars. You can hallucinate and see like dark figures over your bed. Sometimes they have like red eyes. Sometimes there is the sensation of being dragged. But the terrifying thing is, the more you learn about sleep paralysis, it can actually trigger sleep paralysis.
Well, why are you telling us about it?
Listeners, stop!
This is like the Ring of podcasts.
That's terrible. Why would you tell us that?
Because I think that explains a lot of what... like, when people wake up in the middle of the night, I think that explains a lot. Which doesn't make it any less terrifying, like Beth said. It's your brain.
Right.
It's still real, yeah.
But...
On the same token, my husband was on a medication that caused night terrors. He didn't know it caused night terrors until he, like... was like, something is going on, and he like was, it was just like he was like sort of investigating what could be, like Googling, and then it was like, oh, some medications can cause it, and then like, oh, it's this like heart medication I'm on.
Yeah.
But he would wake up like it's happened a couple times while I was sleeping with him, because it was like right around then that they were able to change his medication. But it happened twice when I was sleeping with him, and seeing an adult man think he sees something and be terrified of it, and you're looking at, you know what I mean? It's really, really scary.
That's very scary.
Like, he would think he was seeing stuff, and he would be awake looking at it, screaming in terror.
Now, could you talk to him in that, or?
Yeah, and he would kind of come out of it after a couple minutes. And it wasn't like, it would never go on and on and on, but it would be like, say, 30 seconds before he woke up and realized what was going on. But it was so scary. Thank God it only happened 2 times that I can remember.
Yeah.
And one time his roommate at the time went into his room and was like, 'cause thought he was hurt or being murdered, or...
Wow, that's really freaking weird.
And he thought there were like bats all in his room, swooping down at him and stuff, and he was screaming.
Aww.
I know.
That was going to be something I brought up, because my son has had night terrors. He hasn't had them in a while, but it's the same thing. Like, we'll be asleep, and all of a sudden we'll hear Mickey, like, just like, no, get out of here. Go. What do you want?
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, and I'll go in there, and he's sitting straight up in his bed, and his eyes are open. Like, was your husband's eyes open?
Yeah.
And it's like, he's looking around, but I'm, like, right in front of him, like, hey, buddy. But he won't snap out of it. Like, he's just looking around, like, looking through me almost. So I'll start...
You're the ghost.
Brains are the ghosts.
So I'll start talking to him and being like, buddy, you okay? What's going on? And he'll just, like, he's still in his whatever daze, where he's like, no, get out. No. And, like, he'll point into the corner. Like, he sees something.
And you're getting scared.
Yeah, and it is freaky.
It is scary.
And I kind of have to just, at that point, just, like, hug him and kind of just, like, keep telling him, it's all right, just wake up. And usually then he calms down and just goes back to sleep. But there was one night it happened.
Jesus Christ.
There was one night it happened, and before it happened, I sleep across the hall from him. And I went to bed, and I remember going to sleep, and I'm kind of nodding off. And then I woke up, and I just had this, I didn't see anything, but I just had this feeling that there was someone standing right by my bed, like watching me. And I just had this feeling. And then that same night, Mickey had a night terror.
Weird.
Isn't that odd?
Yeah, I mean...
That's ghosts or whatever.
Yeah.
It's leftover energy.
We're all having nightmares tonight, folks.
I'm sleeping in my house by
100%.
myself tonight.
Oh, yeah, no, that's right. Your family's all gone.
Yeah. I think I'm staying the night, Matt.
Yeah!
Yes!
Buddies. That had something... My son also had... It wasn't a night terror. It was just a nightmare. And he was saying that there was someone in his room, and he was pointing at the corner by the curtain. And, I am like... It's the middle of the night. My husband wasn't home, of course. And it's like, what if there is something there? And they're like, of course I'm going to go show him that there's nothing there.
Aww.
But if there's something there, we are really screwed.
Yeah.
And I'm like going over there. I'm like, I just, walking over there like, see, buddy, it's nothing. And but then you're like, I don't know. Then a curtain, like he has like the blackout curtains from like floor to ceiling.
Ugh.
Stuff could be...
Somebody could be back there.
Back there, they're theater curtains.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they're big and whew.
Man.
Yeah.
This is a lot scarier than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to be really honest.
I agree. Matt, what else do you got?
So this one's... this is... I've got a few more, but we can make this natural. My dad... This is one of my dad's stories. So after my parents were divorced when I was young, he was like living in this house that we had, and my brother and my mother and I moved out, and we were living elsewhere. And so... So, we would stay over there on weekends or whatever. Anyway, so this house was like, I don't know what it's called, but it was a single story. And when you came in through the garage, if you looked down, like you came in and you were like in the family room, and if you looked down the hall, it was like one long house. So if you were in the living room, you could see...
Like The Shining, like the hallway in The Shining.
Yes. You could see the dining room, the kitchen, the the living room, and then the back of the house where the bedrooms, my brother's bedrooms and I were at. So if you were on one side of the house, you could see the other. And so one night he like hears baby Matt, I guess, going like da or like daddy, like daddy, like down the hallway. So his bed, the master bedroom's like at one side of the house, and my brother's and my room's at the other end of the house. So he like comes out of his room, and he's like looking down the hall towards the bedrooms, and he's like hearing somebody saying daddy. Except then he's like, oh wait, the kids aren't here. They're like there was like Marcia at this other house. So he's like hearing somebody saying this, but there's just like him in the house. So he's like freaked out, right?
Yeah.
Turns out it was the refrigerator was on the fritz, and it was like making a noise. It was like daddy, which is still kind of scary.
Super scary.
But like, yeah, it was just the refrigerator.
Oh, can you imagine? You're like, oh, they're the freaking kids, and then you like get up and walk down the hallway, and you're like, oh, wait,
no kids here. Yeah.
I've had like where, I have the monitor, and I'm like, oh, I think I hear my kid calling me.
Beth, come upstairs.
And so I'm like, oh, and I check the monitor expecting to see them. And they're just like, literally just laying exactly where they, in the same position or whatever. And you're like, oh, I must have just been hearing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I thought I heard.
Where's the ghost kids in your house?
Yeah, it's just the ghost children. That's fine.
Come on. So that's that one.
That's scary. I'm glad it has an explanation, and that the end of it wasn't just like, and then you went back to bed.
He's like, couldn't find the kids, so I got back in bed. Another time, this is when we were teenagers. We talked about this, but you don't remember it, so you must not have been there. Because I feel like you would remember, but maybe not. Maybe I'm misremembering it. But there's a park by where we grew up where we used to go play sand volleyball once in a while when we were in high school. And it was like the summer, and it was dusk, so it was like, like at dusk the light gets kind of weird,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I had this very like distinct memory of things almost being kind of like black and white in terms of like the lighting of it, and so we were the last ones in the park. It's not, like I said, it's not a big park. The parking lot, the sand volleyball is right next to the park, so it was just like us. There's nobody there, and it was late, and so the back half of the park was like a path through like a wooded area. And so we're like finishing up volleyball, and we hear like a woman or a girl screaming from like the wooded area. And we're like, it was very like, we were all very like, what was that?
Screaming words or just screams?
Just screams.
Yes.
And so there was probably 10 of us. I mean, it was like a pretty big group. So like, you're like, 10 people scared. But I seem to remember being pretty freaked out.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what you're going to find.
Walking in this big clump, like through the path, through the trees, when it was like pitch black. I think we had a flashlight maybe, but...
Yeah, there's a Babadook back there.
I know. So we went around... We walked through the pathway. We walked. Never found anything. We didn't find anybody back there.
Weird.
And so then we were like, "Well, let's go. Well, this is enough." And we left. That was pretty scary.
I was embarrassingly bad at volleyball, so I probably wasn't there. I did bail on a lot of volleyball adventures. That's okay.
I wasn't there.
I don't have to hate for it.
I wish I would have. You would have been so funny to watch at volleyball.
Guys, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I got two. One of which happened to me, the other which happened to my friend. One of which I can explain, the other which I cannot.
Okay.
So we'll start with the one that happened to me. So there was a period back when we were living in our apartment, after my wife and I first got married, where it only happened 2 or 3 times, but I would wake up, it would be early in the evening, be falling asleep, and then I would just hear like just banging really loud on the door, like an angry bang on the door.
Yeah.
And I'd wake up and I'd go to the door and no one was there. It happened about 3 times.
In one night or ever?
Throughout.
Oof.
So, excuse me. I started looking it up, and I actually found there is a sleep disturbance that people get. Maybe it doesn't happen all the time, but it's called exploding head syndrome.
Oh my god.
Where just as you're, and it's not dangerous. It's not harmful. But something in your brain as you're falling asleep, sometimes there can be like a little snap in your brain.
Yeah.
Like a synapse fires off or something.
Yeah.
And you hear a loud noise that kind of jolts you awake.
Oh, that's funny.
So I kind of think that's what that was.
I think that's happened to me before.
Yeah, that happens to me
Yeah.
sometimes. I'm not kidding. That happened to me last night.
Really?
Because I
That was
thought...
a ghost.
Well, and I heard the sound and I shot away, like shot up My husband was gone. He's not gone this often. He's just gone like a couple times in these stories.
Okay.
He was playing games last night with his friends. And I remember thinking like, I must have been hearing things because the dog would have went crazy.
Oh, yeah.
If it was, the dog sleeps in the room with me. So he was laying, I'm like, the dog's fine. And I got up and turned on my Himalayan salt lamp for like a nightlight because I was like, damn, it like was one of those things. It was just like, and I'm like, maybe one of the kids kicked their headboard or, you know, but it was like jolted me awake. And that just happens sometimes.
Yeah, I get that, yeah.
That's good to know, Chris. That's good to know.
So the one I can't explain.
Oh, boy.
So about a year ago, I was actually doing another podcast at the time, and we started having a similar conversation. Like it was more of a faith-based podcast. We were talking about do you believe in ghosts and things like that. And my friend, I might get some details wrong, but the gist of it is pretty clear in my mind. So he was at his house, and this was over a period of maybe 6 months or so with his wife. And they basically had the living room, and then there was their kitchen, and then there were stairs going upstairs. And he said he would just, occasionally, he'd be sitting there watching TV, and out of the corner of his eye, he would see something move, and he'd look back, and there was just this little girl sitting on their stairs. Little, like, 6-year-old girl. And he didn't have a 6-year-old girl at that time. And he's like, I didn't really do anything. I just kind of was like, oh, that's weird. But he didn't say anything, just didn't say anything. He saw it a few more times. So finally, he's having a conversation with his wife, and he asks her, you know, hey, have you seen anything weird in the house? She's like, oh, yeah, I didn't tell you, but are you talking about the little girl on the stairs?
Oh, that's
No
pretty
way.
good.
Yes.
No way.
Yes. And it's funny because he's kind of my mindset. He's like, you know, if other people tell me ghost stories, I just kind of think they're, you know, full of shit. But he's like, but I know what I saw, and I know what happened to me. And
Yeah.
That is so terrifying.
Yeah, I would not be happy with that.
Yeah.
Nope. Ghosts are real.
Is that your story?
That's it.
I mean, that's scary. That's a good story. Don't say it like oh, is that it? That's a good story.
That's a good story.
There was nothing else. There was no call coming from inside the house or anything like that.
Did it just go away?
I think they moved.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
they found the gas leak and they
Then they put in carbon monoxide detectors.
yeah, they're like, oh, that's why we're seeing little girls everywhere.
He's been dead for 6 years.
The only other one I have is not really a scary story, but it's kind of a funny one. I was driving home one time. This was back in high school. Early on in high school, I had a van. I had like a minivan. That was like my first car. And so I was driving home from somewhere. I don't know, probably your house, Beth. I don't know. And it was dark. It was late. It was, nighttime. Driving along, and I look in the rearview mirror, and something is like in the car with me, and it's like coming towards the rearview mirror. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? And like, sorry, bleep that out. And I like punch it, like, you do one of these? Because I'm like, there's something in the car, and it's right behind me, and it's coming. So I punch it. It was a balloon.
I would have had to you pull over and like change your undies?
My adrenaline was
I cannot imagine. You punched it like, well, I'm about to just like fight this thing to the death, I guess.
Yeah, I was like in fight mode.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I went through a phase where I was real scared of someone hiding in the backseat.
I remember telling you stories to scare you when you were like going to drive home, like when we would be hanging out. Like, I think one time, I seem to remember very specifically one time you were driving home from somewhere and you had your cousin's maybe like baby seat in your car or something. Car. And we were telling you that to be careful because like at some point if you kept looking at the rearview mirror, at some point you would look at it and there would be an actual like little man baby or something in there, and he would get you.
Yeah.
That's probably why you were scared.
This isn't the same thing, but it's kind of the same thing, same idea. So shortly after we got married, there was like a Saturday afternoon or something. I was taking a nap. And I'm taking a nap, and my wife must have come into the room to go put some stuff away. But then, you're married, and so I don't know. That must be the reason she was just staring at me. Like, I don't know. She was just staring at me while I slept, which seems like a young married thing to do. Mm-hmm. Well, the problem is I woke up, and I see her staring at me, and I screamed so loud and, like, booked off that bed.
Man.
That's funny.
So those were some good scary stories.
Yeah, I'm a little freaked out. I don't want you guys to leave.
That's okay. Cats are, like, good about that stuff, so just pay attention to your cat.
Well, where'd he go?
He's
Oh, that was him right there.
Oh.
So, in the meantime, where can people find you guys, Matt?
I'm on Twitter at Matt December.
I'm at unicornfood.com. That's YOUNICORN food.com.
You can find me on Twitter at Mere Christianity, and you can read my movie reviews at MichiganSportsAndEntertainment.com. And you can check out my other podcast, We're Watching Here. It airs every other Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. And we will be back next weekish.
Thanks for listening, spooky listeners.
Thank you.